All right, good morning. It's 11 a.m. Tuesday, October 7th. This is a meeting of the Public Safety Committee. All members are present. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. The first item of business is citizens' comments, and we have one citizen that, you want?
I would like to, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
You don't have a problem.
No, of course not.
Yes,
No.
it's on. I turned it on.
Oh, it is? Okay.
3 minutes. I've lived on the island since 2004. For the past 21 years, myself and my family have been involved in supporting our first responders.
Just name and address, Julie, if you don't mind.
Julie Nestler, 1722nd Avenue. Equally for fire and police. For both an act of service as well as investment in safety concerns in my community, for myself and for my community. I follow the see something, say something, not to point fingers, but to be proactive in the name of safety. I have spoken out for NFPA staffing. I've spoken out about pay and retention. I have spoken about and fought for a fireboat in the water after the woman lost her life in Charcoal at the oyster bed, where tidal wave was first on scene because they had a boat on the water in the water. I offered a life ring for our dock when I witnessed unsafe conditions with a grandmother with her walker, with kids in the water with no way to get up on the dock, and people jumping off the roof. I offered it for the safety of our community. I didn't point fingers when I was told no with the life ring. I presented it anyway for the safety of my community. I didn't go public when a council person told me they didn't worry about enough first responder staffing because they had their own policy in place that they would be airlifted if they had an emergency with their own policy in place with their home. I didn't go public with that. I have seen the retaliation and I have felt the retaliation. I did, however, go public, and it pains me greatly when Scott Pierce lied to the community about first responders making $103,000 a year, spreading a false narrative, causing so much damage, and not one person stood up for our first responders to correct the misinformation. So yesterday I read that we have lost 3 firefighters, paramedics, 12 since the beginning of the year. And they are leaving because they no longer can work here on the pay that they are being paid. And I don't know, but I think Roger Eagle is retiring in a couple months. So I haven't done the math, but I don't know if we're going to be losing an entire shift. This inaction to pay our first responders is putting my safety at risk. I'm here for my safety. Today, I am pleading with you to put public safety at the top of a non-negotiable priority. No more deflection with bike and noise ordinance rules for an orderly community. Please don't continue to stand behind it being a right-to-work state and continue to be complacent to this very important issue. No more flashy rebranding on unnecessary things because those things don't save lives. Please reevaluate the importance of the safety in our community. It is imperative that we remain a safe community and our first responders are supported so they can do their job and they can stay on their job here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, the first item of business is approval of the previous meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
They're in the
Second.
packet. Any changes or modifications?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
First item of business is, it's old business, is discussion of changes to the noise ordinance, nighttime noise levels. We discussed this at last meeting, and I think we're in general agreement to move this forward to workshop, and we said we would review it one last time before we moved it to the workshop in, I guess, next week. So, is there any comments? And Douglas, you may want to, I don't know if you have any comments on it either, but does anybody wants to make any comments on it?
Mr. Chair, just as I said last month when we had our meeting, our noise ordinance as written, I'm certainly in favor of. I am not in favor of setting a decibel level of 55, so I respectfully will not be voting in support of that. I know that this will go on in all likelihood to the workshop for us to discuss, but just want to be on record that setting a decibel level at 55 is not something I'm in favor of.
All right, Jan, any comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. I was rereading this, and I apologize for not bringing this up earlier, but I just have one suggestion that if we change the nighttime noise section B, with the wording they have, that we change section C, just their wording, just to be consistent with B. But basically,
You mean the times?
just the wording, call it daytime sound, instead, things like that, and the same wording of the first sentence that they have in the other one, but without any decibel level in it. I've got a suggestion here if you want to.
Daytime sound, and then we should change the time limits to match the above paragraph from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Yeah. And then
And
it's
7
just-
a.m. to 11
Yeah.
p.m.
It shall be unlawful for any person, entity, or establishment to play, operate, or cause sound, as the first one emphasizes sound, for whatever the hours are, in such a manner or with unreasonably loud volume in the circumstances as to disturb the quiet comfort or repose of any reasonable person of ordinary sensibilities in any dwelling or other residence. It just makes it consistent with the other one, without changing
The intent,
the intent.
right? You want to give it
Right.
So are
Thank you.
we, I guess, I'm just looking for a consensus on what we should do with this. I don't want to take something to council again that we've beat, we've gone 3
Yeah.
times to council with the noise ordinance, so I want to know, I want us to be in agreement on what we take
Yeah.
forward, otherwise I don't know where it goes from here.
Well, in my opinion, a decibel level of 55 decibels is
Yeah.
reasonable for overnight hours. It's not, whisper quiet, but it's reasonable quiet. And I think it would help in the overnight enforcement, which I think is the real problem here. That's what people complain about more than often than not, is overnight hours when everything else is quiet.
Yeah, so again, it doesn't change anything during the day. It leaves it the ordinance the way it is.
Yeah.
The only thing is after 10 o'clock on weekdays and 11 o'clock on weekends.
So I would like to move that we submit the revised noise ordinance as amended for section C to the full council.
I second that. Any other comments before we vote?
Nope.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay.
All right, well, then Douglas will.
Put it on
put this
workshop.
the Workshop, yeah.
Yep.
The next one is update on e-bike and motorized scooter regulations. Yes, Chief, last time, we talked about and reviewed the regulations that you had brought forward from Mount Pleasant and some others, and the brochure that you had developed. I think you were just going to give an update. Maybe if I remember correctly, there was state law that is already in place, and some of the other communities just reinforce that state law within their own ordinances, which I think we said that it's kind of redundant, it doesn't make a difference, but that if we could put on the brochure make sure we listed all the state law that was on there, then that would kind of suffice in terms, and get anybody that's renting them to give that brochure out with them as well.
Yes, sir. So most of the state laws, while they're not specifically listed as state laws on the brochure, are on there.
Yeah.
But there are significant state laws related to bicycles on there. We can go in and look at those. But one thing I was going to suggest, is my understanding is that there will be an introduction for a potential legislative action when they return. And I don't know what that's going to look like yet. And so I was going to recommend that right now, state law covers most of these things. It does not cover what you were asking about as far as wheelies. The only way we could really enforce that is a bicycle has to ride to the right-hand side of the road. If it made them move out of the right-hand side of the road, then we'd be able to address it that way. But I was going to recommend that before we take significant action in changing anything in ordinance, since state law covers most things, that we wait and see what is introduced for that.
So you're saying, the General Assembly is going to look to tighten up some of the e-bike regulations?
That's my understanding, is that there will be a bill introduced when they return.
Representative Bustos is going to introduce that.
Oh, he is,
Well,
okay.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
fine on waiting to do anything internally, but I think mainly because state law covers a lot of it already. I would suggest, though, and this is just when I read the brochure, it's listed as tips, and it's a mix of state law and good, safe practices to follow. And maybe it'd be helpful to separate or to put next to some of them, this is state law, or something, so people understand if you violate those, you could get a ticket. If you violate the other ones, you're just putting yourself at risk. And we suggest so I think maybe distinguish between the two would help, but.
We can look, our concern with that was, when we talked about it internally, was if you tell them it's not state law, or
Yeah.
you dictate one, you kind of elevate one more than the other. And
Yeah.
even those safety tips, while they may not be state law, they are best practice for safety reasons.
Yeah.
We didn't necessarily want somebody to ignore that because
Yeah.
it was a state law. It's still a safety action, but we could certainly do that.
Or
It's no
put
big
something,
deal.
many of these are already state law or something, so that you don't
That's a good way
distinguish
to do
them
it.
one. But they know that, hey, on some, if you violate these, you could get you could get a ticket.
That's fair. That's an
Yeah.
easy
Well,
addition.
there is a statement on here, too, that source is South Carolina Department of Public Safety.
That was just for the picture.
Yeah.
I wanted to give them
Okay.
credit for stealing their
Not for the
hand signal.
verbiage,
Your little
just
hand
for the-
signal
Yeah,
picture.
hand
Got
signal,
it.
yeah.
All right. I thought that was well done.
I would just suggest that next time you print this, it doesn't void these, but leave the word tips off, just say bike safety, and then it gives, the authority of the police department is sort of standing there by itself without you saying that it's against the law.
We can do that. We can add a note or take the tips off either way.
Just sort of be a little more
So-
dogmatic, I guess.
So as next steps on this, we'll just kind of table until the first of the year, or after the looks and see what the state does? Is that what
I
you're
think that's,
recommending?
yes, sir. And then as long as it's okay with everybody here, we can start taking, we already put the brochures out. So
Yeah.
my next step with the brochures would be to go to any business that's renting them out
Yeah.
or selling them and ask them to please give those out when people rent or buy.
Well, I think the more we can do with that type of stuff between now and the time any kind of new legislation comes out is beneficial. So I would support
We'll
that.
start moving on that this week.
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe I jumped the gun. I already handed over your copy to the Wild Dunes Community Association because
That's
they are
okay.
very concerned about this e-bikes inside the gate, that's for sure.
I'll make sure we give it to them as well, and
Okay.
we work with them.
All right, next item is update on golf cart regulations and brochures.
So we did create I made it all pretty this morning, so I have some I can pass around here for the council members. Can you pass it to me, please? This is the one, we've had one in place, and I just really took what we had, took the information, made it a little bit easier to read, and made it on something a little more eye-catching. And you'll see that's front and back. You can fold that into your tri-fold area there to kind of see it. But we will have one very similar that we'll clean up for LSVs. but it specifically states what you must do and how the law kind of reads on each of those. And I think we made that as clear as we could with making must all capitalized for those things that they have to do, and then talking about where they can and cannot drive, and putting pictures in there, and made it very clear that you cannot operate a golf cart on Palm Boulevard between Breach Inlet and 41st or on the IOP connector. And it's got its own page with a picture above it, just to make sure it is very clear that you cannot drive a golf cart on those two roads.
And that sort of gets us into the golf cart paths that we're talking about.
And I did reference those on there, stating that you can drive on a golf cart path. That is a city-approved golf cart path along the right-of-way of a primary roadway.
Chief, should we, I know you mentioned, you have it in bold print here, Palm Boulevard between Breach, and we need to, that's misspelling there too, Breach is misspelled.
Yes, sir. I noticed that when I
Yeah.
came in.
And 41st Avenue, which is good, but on the flip side, where it has golf cart versus LSV, the last bullet point, cannot drive on Palm Boulevard, maybe you should note on that also between Breach Inlet and 41st.
Yes, sir. We can
Yeah,
add that.
just add it so that it's not confusing, that somebody may look at that and think that that's all of Palm Boulevard, but as we know from 42nd up, you're okay. Otherwise, well done, I think.
Okay.
And
So-
this, and the intent of this is to make sure you give to the golf cart rentals as well.
Correct. Yes, sir. We'll do the same thing with these, and just to educate, and I apologize for the spelling error. When I walked in here at 10:55, it was because I was printing these.
Yeah.
You could always catch something.
Just blame it on spell check, Autocorrect these days.
When you use Canva, it doesn't come with spell check sometimes.
Don't tell anybody. What about the golf cart path designations that we're now instigating? Traffic engineering is based on encouraging people to do the right thing, and tell them where the right thing is to do. So, do people know that there's that path along Palm Boulevard? That I know all the residents do, but visitors don't.
I would have to check with DOT to see, we would wind up having to ask for signage, which would require encroachment permits, but that's something that, we were the first, when I spoke with DOT to get these approved, they told me that we were the first municipality to be moving on that down here in this area, so they were, there was a little bit of uncertainty with that, so this might be some uncharted territory we're rolling into with it, but I can certainly reach out and ask.
Well, now that there's an ordinance making it legal,
Correct.
It wouldn't have met MUTCD standards before, so it does now. That's good.
Yeah, I think we intentionally needed them to be a little bit under the radar previously, so maybe we
Right.
did not mark them, and maybe we now can and should, so it's a
Yeah.
good suggestion.
And then I would suggest in future budgets that we look at something for maybe just grading them so that they're more usable where we want people to use them. That's next year's budget, I guess.
Okay, any other comments on this? I think
Nope.
This is a good job.
I like
Yeah.
this.
The update, next on the agenda is update on scope of future traffic study. I think we ended up last time where we were looking at doing, getting some consultants involved.
Right.
And who was going to participate in terms of neighboring communities.
Right.
And I think you have some information.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we reached out to the town of Mount Pleasant, the town of Sullivan's Island, and to the Council of Governments just about kind of this idea, the scope. We heard back from the town of Mount Pleasant that they would not be willing to participate from a funding standpoint. They have a staff of traffic engineers. They indicated that they would be more than willing to lend their expertise to the effort, but that they didn't, I guess, foresee the need to participate financially in the study. I can share with you there just kind of the correspondence back and forth where they highlighted for me all that they have done at a staff level on their side of the connector. I think they feel like, they wanted us to know, I think, that they hear us, they're aware of the issue, they've been trying to be proactive in addressing the issues on that side of the bridge, and so they made that loud and clear.
I would like to see that if you
Yeah,
don't mind.
be happy
Yeah.
happy to forward that list to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I'd
good.
like to
We
see
need
that.
that, all of us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, I think this study would just, the way I see it in Mount Pleasant, it would hold them harmless, the improvements that I could see coming out of this. The Rifle Range Road intersection would basically function as it does today with better capacity. And the changes would be on the connector on the Mount Pleasant side, if at all.
Yeah.
What about Sullivan?
So Sullivan's staff did indicate that they would be willing to participate. They would like to participate in a study. They did see the benefit of kind of looking beyond just beyond the Isle of Palms, including them in that. I have a meeting with them this coming Monday, and I don't know that I know that they weren't planning to do this. So, I mean, this is a thing that they would be kind of adding. And I am guessing, but I'll confirm Monday, that they don't have money budgeted to the effort. So it would be my expectation that they wouldn't be, well, we'll see Monday, but I guess I would be concerned that they're not going to have a large funding bucket to participate in, in this project. So I think we would want to be conservative in terms of the scope, to not kind of blow a budget that they don't already have allocated to the project. Also had conversations with the Council of Governments. They have about 5 engineering firms that are they're on what they call an on-call contract. So each time they have a new traffic engineering question, they basically modify an existing contract that they have in place to do that work. So I don't know that that's something that we could borrow from, but our procurement ordinance does allow us to do that if we chose to do that. So we're having a little bit of conversations with their staff about which firms they think would be best suited to work with us. I do think that it would be helpful for the staff if the council could advise on, I think that when Stan Tech was proposing to do work, and I think their cost was under 30, I think it was 28,000, something of that nature, to do kind of data collection. I think I sensed a resistance from council to spend that money, and at least some parts of council to spend that money. And I would guess that the sense was it would be reinforcing things that we kind of know intuitively about traffic on the holiday weekends. So I don't want to go through a process, get proposals back, kind of put the firms through the work, put the staff through the work. If we are working on a project that's not going to ultimately have council support, and we've done this with, and so I think we'd be useful to discuss this, but that's a concern. I think one path forward would be if we could get a budget allocation authorized by council, whereby we kind of talk through the scope, work up what we think it will cost, and then propose that to council. Would also help us propose it to the town of Sullivan's Island to get their kind of feedback before we go through this process. But what I want to avoid is we go through a long, drawn-out process of interviewing firms, getting firms in here, getting pricing in. I'm assuming it would be approaching $100,000. We then go to council and say, hey, your half would be, our half would be 50, the town of Sullivan's Island's half would be 50. So if, I would like to get some kind of assurance that there is buy-in from a majority of council before we go through that process.
Okay.
I agree with that, but then that would also place us in the next
That's the other.
fiscal year too. I mean, we're pushing it, I mean, we're just pushing it out. But, I mean, personally, I tend to agree. I mean, I think, I sense that we don't have a consensus on council at this point either as to the scope and spending the money for something we already know, basically. And we need to have these other municipalities hopefully involved in some manner, even if they're not going to put up some of the funding for the traffic study. It would be great if our neighbors, both Mount Pleasant and Sullivan's Island and COG for that matter, to be a part of this, because it really is a low-country solution we're looking for, or at least, maybe not a solution, but at least an
No,
improvement.
It is a solution, I think. Yeah, to me, I think we're in analysis paralysis, personally, and I agree that more data may tell us we got a whole lot of cars here, but I don't know if we've exhausted all this thing that I'm more interested in, that's potential solutions.
Yeah.
And I think there are things that we could be doing that, it's not going to eliminate traffic, but it's going to certainly help it. And there's even new technology now that I don't know that we've ever talked about. Look at the capabilities that AI has. I mean, is there an AI potential solution that measures certain parameters around and automatically changes the light sequencing to make sure flowing of traffic or,
That's happening now.
things like that we've not entertained right now. And I'm more interested in not getting a lot more data that tells us we got a whole lot of cars on the roads. I'm more interested in saying, what is the best technology? What are things that we've not done? What do you recommend that we do to improve the traffic situation on the island? And take the data we have and look at it, and that can't cost $100,000. And that's what I'm interested in doing, instead of just sitting here, and saying, throwing our arms up in the air and saying we got too many cars, nothing we can do. Let's continually beat the bushes for different technologies and things that we can do to make it better, instead of analyzing that we got, 20,000 cars coming across the connector.
Yeah, the other part of that, and I guess maybe I should not have thrown out the number 100,000, because that's completely out of the blue. But I think if we knew kind of the budget of the project, we could also tailor what the scope would be.
Well, instead of doing it that way, why don't we do it the other way and say, we want you to take the data that we have and give us solutions, and we're looking for a company that's at the top of the technology, use of current technology. You tell us what it takes to give us the solutions that we're not thinking about on how to improve the traffic on this island. Here's all the data.
Okay.
Instead of us trying to work backwards and trying to fit some budget into somebody's, I'd rather do it the other way around.
Okay, can I sort of comment? First of all, starting with the Stantec proposal that we got for $30,000. I was against that because, first of all, it was rushed, and that was partly my fault. Secondly, it was for the busiest weekend of the year, 4th of July, and they would have to pay their people at least double overtime to be here. And I don't know how many people, I think they had a couple of people stationed here. So I don't know where the $30,000 came from, but we had traffic counts done a couple of years ago with Jennifer Beal and Associates, and it cost like $5,000 to get some traffic counts. So this $30,000 data collection is just because it was rushed and the most expensive day of the year to do it. And it's not the day that we need because, as we all agree, on the 4th of July, we get gridlock. And it doesn't tell us anything to stand out there and count none of the cars going through because we already know none of the cars are getting through. So I think what we're asking for here is the focus on what you're talking about, John, where we have data, we can supplement it for reasonable cost if we need it.
Yeah.
The way the signals, I don't know what kind of software we have, how sophisticated our signal timing is now, but the software now can adapt to everything that you were talking about. Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock, all we have to do is figure out a Wednesday 3 o'clock traffic count solution, and that will automatically change to it. you can do it it all depends on how much capacity you have in the programming that you have out there, because it's just a giant spreadsheet. And it's not like you have to count every single day of the year. You choose typical days, and that's where the engineering expertise comes in, where they can with good success say this is a typical weekday in the summertime. This is a typical weekday in the wintertime. This is a typical weekday for, peak times and whatever. So you can build that database without spending a whole lot of money, and then you just program it into the system. Now, I don't know what the software is that we have for our signal, but it can be very sophisticated in terms of adapting to a whole bunch of different situations. That's where we need the experts to tell us what it is that's there. Maybe we need an upgrade. That would probably be up to South Carolina DOT, though, to do and pay for, hopefully. But if we do the study, we've been told they will retime the signal.
Yeah, I just think we need fresh ideas, new technology, where the technology available today is a lot different than what it was even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested in solutions. And as Jan said, if this guy comes back and says, or the person says, hey, I can give you that, but this is a missing piece of data that you don't have that I need, then we entertain at that point saying, well, do we do the data or not? But right now, take what we have,
Yeah.
give us solutions. How much does that cost?
But you still would have to put that out for bid if you go down that route there, right?
That's what I'm sitting here thinking about, if you would.
If we go through Council of Governments, do we have to still go out for an RFP?
There is a part of our procurement code that allows us to piggyback onto another jurisdiction's competitive process. But I think along those lines, their staff does a lot of, it's a lot of what the Council of Governments is doing. They might have enough familiarity to just say, hey, we hear your problem. This is a firm that we think could just,
Yeah.
at an hourly rate. I don't know how many hours it would take them, but we could have an hourly rate kind of introduction and have them appear here, having looked at the data. And I don't think they could at least tell you kind of next steps in their mind in terms of what they would need to get to implementing solutions.
I think that's a perfect next step then, is let's do that.
So-
Let's keep this thing moving forward.
Keep it moving, but at a minimum of expense at this point.
Yeah. And
I mean,
we
let's
could-
not commit a lot of dollars, and of course, we'd have to go to council anyway, but not have a lot of dollars committed out there before we have some idea of what
Okay. So let me see.
technology is available.
What I could see is that we reach out to the Council of Governments, have them recommend a firm, and we might be able to have some input into that if we have a preference for one over the other. The firm would then come to us and say, this is what we recommend that you do to get the outcome that you want, with what the study would entail, what the results would be. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, yes, I think generally.
And how much it would cost.
I think I would kind of equate what I'm envisioning to the way we operate with the beach, where Stephen comes to you all, he says, this is the set of circumstances, this is what we would, these are different large-scale options. You could do renourishment, you could do
Yeah.
shoal management, you could do scraping, you could do sandbags. Kind of talk through options and then let council choose a direction. And then that direction, depending on what it is, kind of starts the process forward. If they say, hey, we have to have a traffic study, otherwise the DOT is not going to authorize whatever it is that you want to do without it, we would then start down that path. So I think I'm envisioning a quick and inexpensive session with a traffic engineer that's advised to us by the Council of Governments, kind of a minimal cost, have them in the room, have some expertise, advise us on, hey, we think these handful of things could have a meaningful impact, and it would take you this to get there, and lay out lay out additional steps, which I'm
Yeah.
sure would then have a significant
Yeah.
funding. But we're not kind of shooting in the dark at that point.
No,
We've had-
exactly. That's exactly what I think should be the next step at this point.
And I would see them as doing a short-term versus long-term solutions kind of thing. And we can decide, the easiest thing would be for them, a traffic engineer will open up talk to the DOT and then probably open up the box out there and see what kind of hardware we have and what kind of software it's loaded with. And then they could probably use the counts that we did a couple of years ago, which I think were done like one summer weekend and I think off-season too. So they could look at those, and it gives them hourly turning movements, which we don't get from the connector counts. So they could look at those and say, this looks good, this is how we would recommend that. You know, the quick fix would be to retime your signal this way. The longer fix will be maybe to make a different configuration for the intersection. And we could either do the quick fix and stop there if we run out of money, or we can do the longer fix if that's reasonable too. Does that sound like a
Yep.
way? Okay, we get somebody in
You
to
got
tell us
enough?
what's
Yep,
possible.
yep, I've
Good
got
stuff.
direction, thank you.
The next item on here is discussion of ordinance 2025-07, which is the fishing regulations. I believe we had first reading of this in council, but this is to review a small change in some of the language related to the, paragraph A in there that defines how fishing line is actually put out into the water. I think but in the version that was reviewed at council, we said it was unlawful to use any artificial means for the purposes of, and there's some language in here to further define that, that says it should be unlawful to use any artificial/mechanical means other than traditional rod and reel hand casting. And I'm personally fine with the change. I think
I
it
am
helps
too.
clarify
Yeah,
it.
that's
So,
fine.
do we need to vote on it or anything?
If you all wouldn't mind making a recommendation to council to make that change.
I make a motion that we put forward these changes to council prior to second reading.
A second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. The next item on discussion is discussion of a public safety-related matrix recommendations, and there's a copy of the matrix that's in the packet. There's really,
In very small print.
yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at this on a very large
I need-
screen.
I need to
Yeah, it
keep
read
my-
fine, but now that I printed out.
I need
Well,
to
you can't
improve my
even get it all on the
1.75s to 2s, I think, here.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's really two primary sources, it looks like. It's the community enrichment plan, and it's the comprehensive plan. Douglas, I have a question as I was looking through these. A lot of these are just staff-related. They don't need council, they don't need council to entertain any of these, or a lot of, and I won't say any. A lot of these, it's just staff taking them and doing them, right?
That's correct,
Yeah.
yeah, some of them, I mean, they all have some component of, I think there could be some that are kind of no-brainer, no additional time, no additional manpower, that could probably just be done, and we could indicate that in the far right column, the status column.
For example, one of these things says, notification should occur via multiple communication channels to include text for public safety. I mean, council doesn't need to entertain that. And you guys should entertain that and say, hey, does this make sense that we do this or doesn't? And, you do it or you don't.
And I think that's already in
Yeah, and it
progress.
could be
We use
done already.
Facebook, and then
Yeah.
you've got Sunny, so
Yeah, doing
we've
it.
already accomplished that. All they got to do is sign up for Sunny.
Yeah. And,
If,
Yeah.
if you all are agreeable, and, we don't want to, this obviously was a set of recommendations to
Right.
council, so we don't want to stomp on council's kind of purview over the project, but if you're agreeable to staff, and this happened at the public facilities meeting because it's a bit overwhelming when you look at them all on one page.
Yeah.
If you're agreeable to staff bubbling the top what we think are the top 5 back to you.
I would say bubble the top 5 back to us that need council decisions, because,
Yeah.
like, consistently add temporary warning signs to beach paths where coyotes are active. If you feel
We're
like
already doing
that,
that,
you-
too.
yeah. You know, explore ways to increase police officer and beach safety officer staffing during peak summer hours. I mean, council's not going to do that. You know, chief's going to work on that.
Yeah.
If you need something from council, then you come to council and ask for it, right?
So we will also update the right column, the status column. And if it's green, we can do it, we're already doing it. And we have the
Yeah.
ability, we'll just make that green and just say kind of in progress, done. And then we'll choose, so we'll do that, and then in addition, we'll take those that aren't green, but we
Yeah.
think could be done and should be done. We could kind of give you a priority list of the
I
top
think that would be helpful.
5.
Yeah, I watched the Public Services Facilities meeting this morning, and that's what you decided
Yeah.
up there, right?
Yeah,
To just
it's
really-
kind of getting
Yeah,
over, you
To
know,
do
we
like the
didn't want it
top
to be our
Mm-hmm.
product back to you. We want it to be your product, but that might help give it a little bit of,
I think that's.
Direction
I
and-
think that's the best way
So-
to march through this thing, because.
okay.
so there are going to be a couple of different categories. One would be already being implemented.
That's correct. Yeah, we'll give a status update.
Yeah.
If it's already being done, or, you know, if we determine it's not being done, but it could be done relatively easily, and it should be
Yeah.
done from our perspective, we'll just
Yeah.
make that happen.
And-
And report that back in the status
And
column.
then the second category would be staff allocation, what y'all would be responsible for implementing. And then the third category would be council.
Well, there'll just be two
Please do.
categories. Those that are underway or about to be underway at the staff level, and then the next, that's one category.
Okay,
The next
okay.
category are things that would take something from council.
Okay.
But that staff feels like, you know, are kind of top 5 things that we think you all should consider out of this.
That's what you've
Yes.
been noted before as being exploratory, basically. The
Well,
council
some-
would need council action.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then aspirational, you just have that in a separate bucket. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the kind of things that
I think the
we
things
look
we.
at, but we don't, we know that we're probably not going to take any immediate action.
I think things that we'll come back to you with would be actionable things.
Oh, yeah.
So if we've put it as some are aspirational, there's not really an action to take, it's just kind of and I think we would choose the category actionable for you all to consider, something, things that can actually be done and accomplished and not just exploratory or aspirational, but actionable things that aren't happening.
Okay, do we need to have a category for that just sort of is aspirational
It is,
long-term
I don't,
features?
and this matrix has a ton of columns that I think we've hidden, and I can't see it now, but yet,
I've got it up here, but.
so we've already categorized it that way. But
Okay,
you just don't have it in your
Yeah.
packet, but we have that.
Yeah.
So we also have a funding column, you know, if it's a
Uh-huh.
expensive item or a cheap column item. So let us
Okay.
work on, you know, some things we think that you all could get done and moved on, and we'll try to present those back to you in November.
okay, and I'd like to request that if it's a spreadsheet that's this large and there's important information off to the right, could you just print out copies for us and let us know they're in our inboxes, and then we could stop by and pick them up so we'd be prepared for our meetings?
Yeah, you should
Thank
all have the spreadsheets, I think, with all the columns.
I can't read them.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
That's the
Yeah,
problem. I mean,
Yours doesn't print.
Interject that it is impossible to print this even on by 11 by 17 paper and it be bigger than an 8. You know, like, in the type, we tried to do it,
Yeah,
that's why we
it's-
hid some columns because you could see it all without having to flip.
Yeah, you either look at it on your screen, and you have to shift it back and forth, or we print it on the biggest page that we can print it, which is 8.5 by 11. And if it's all columns, it gets tiny. And there's
yes.
no, I
I
mean,
can't
that's,
read it. I mean, if I can't read it, it doesn't matter what it says. So that's my problem.
well, there's only 2 options that we have. We can't create new options. It's either would have to find a way that you can see it on your screen, or we'd have to hide some columns, or we would print it and it would be very small. I don't think there's another option.
Create a table that can be read. That's all I'm asking. Give me a table that I can read, please.
I'm just curious, like, if the objective for next month is to just bring them 5,
Yeah.
can we just put those 5 on one piece of paper?
Yes.
Let's just do that, and then we can, and then when those 5 have been dealt with, we create another piece of paper, and then, because that information for one line, we could put in a paragraph. Here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, 4, does that make sense?
Yes.
Well, I don't know, yeah.
I mean, we don't have to have all of that information from one line, they just want the recommendation.
No, I think she does want all, she wants all the
If you
columns.
flip the chart so that the categories are at the top, if you got 5 categories, you should be able to fit that on one sheet of paper. And the information goes vertically instead of horizontally, and that may be a solution too. And yeah, we don't need all of the information, we need what we need to, for our decision-making.
Yeah, we'll send it to you in multiple formats, get you, so you can read it.
Sorry, but, just don't have any, and I don't know, Kinko's might be able to print it for you, whatever they call it now. Get a big board, I don't know.
All right.
Help me,
You'll
thank
work
you.
All right.
Next item, anything else on that?
No,
All right.
no.
Next item is update on breach inlet signage, and Chief, I see that there's some artwork in here. Do you want
Yeah.
to comment on it, or
Just-
tell us what you got?
Yes, sir, absolutely. So about 2 weeks ago, Robert Acero and some of us met with Abby at Signorama, and so we did a site visit from Fifth all the way to Breach, and we kind of did a sign inventory at the same time to see where these signs would be placed. So Robert looked at that, and he's able to consolidate and complement the existing signage, because we didn't want to add additional U-channel posts if we didn't need to. So it was an opportunity for him to work through some of those areas, so it was very efficient. So we went through that process. We identified that in our initial spec, we did not have it reflective, and so we requested that the signs be reflective on that vinyl. So at dusk and at, night, it would stand out with our other signs. So we're in that process with them waiting, or we're waiting on them to complete all the signs, and once they're completed, they'll be installed. So Robert and I felt that there were a couple that might need to be relocated, and so the sign designer identified those locations with images. She took some pictures and measurements to make sure we get it right. So her install crew comes out, there are no questions, and they know exactly where they need to be placed at those beach access points. So that should be done, I would say, in the next 4 to 5 weeks. They should be installed. We should have them complete in the next 2 to 3 when they're constructed.
Good,
Yes, ma'am.
not a moment too soon.
Yeah, well, it's a
Thank you.
process for sure.
Yeah.
And we definitely wanted to get it right, and if somebody's walking down the beach, or if they're at Breach Inlet, or they're at one of the beach accesses, that the signage is consistent, and it speaks to the imaging. And Chandra was a huge help with that, with the go-between between our sign designer and the vendor, Signorama. So,
And the sign itself's what, 2 feet? Is it?
18, I believe,
Yeah,
18 by
24 by
24
18.
inches. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Okay. Good.
yeah.
Any other comments, questions?
Is 3 feet
great.
deep enough for the U-channel post?
So Robert, I defer to him on that. I don't know if we changed that or not, but
It's
he
got
was happy with.
36 inches here, but,
Yeah, it's a good question. A lot of these, there were existing post or something else that he was able to incorporate it. But I'll double check with Robert before the install to make sure
Okay.
that 3 feet in the sand will work. But
All right, last item of old business is update on the Marina boat ramp safety effort. And there's a picture in here, I think, of some things maybe Chief added, or the Marina added, which a blinker and a sign. You want to you comment on
Yeah,
that? Yeah.
When we last met and talked about this, we talked about, I think, 3 or 4 different things. One is adding just light from the 2 sides, downlighting like floodlights to
Yeah.
illuminate the ramp. That has been done. Each tenant has put up a light on their side, illuminating down on the ramp. Chief Cornett and Robert worked on what you have in your packet, which is signage with a blinking light. You can't see it, that it's blinking here, obviously, in the daylight, but it's a solar-powered light. So it's blinking at night. And the other thing is the center aisle now has a lane divider, one of those lane dividers that can be run over. So that was added. I don't know if that was us or if that was the
As a marina, I think.
marina
Yeah.
did that. So we've kind of done what we talked about last month. And appears to, I know Robert sent a video at night. To me, it kind of appears to stand out.
Chief, I got a question about Google Maps.
Already reached out to them. They've already made edits on their Google Maps.
Okay,
Yes.
I specifically asked them to remove the end of the roadway that goes towards the boat ramp.
yeah,
I got an email while I was in my conference last week that they have made that edit
okay.
and that is done. They also had a roadway that's not there since we reconfigured the parking lot, and I've got an email from them that says that they've changed that as well.
Okay, good. I don't think that, it won't change that, if somebody puts into their, some location and while they're sitting there to orient the right way potentially, but it will keep them from sending them.
Correct. It will
in the
reduce
wrong
it.
direction,
I
yeah.
also, in making those edits, I recommended that the route to get to Islander 71 take you along that roadway and not cut through the marina store parking lot.
Right,
So I did not get an email whether they accepted that or not, but the other two, I did get a response from Google that they accepted them.
yeah, I think those are some good action items that should prevent this from happening again, but,
We hope so.
yeah. All right, thank you. There is no new business, miscellaneous business. I guess next time, one of the items I would like to talk about is speed signs next time in the neighborhoods potentially, because got some residents that talked to me about that. Even there's not enough signs to show speed limits, and I know this was a conversation in the past too, but let's just have another discussion about it next time and maybe be prepared to talk your thoughts on it.
Certainly, I can ask SCDOT again. Last time I asked them, they said they weren't going to add any more signs.
Yeah,
But I can certainly have that discussion with them
yeah.
again.
One other thing, Chair, if you don't mind. I know that we had a 60-day sort of window on this, painting the crosswalks at 43rd, I think it was. So we're still well within that 60 days, but if we could get an update next time as to where DOT stands on the crosswalk at 43rd and restriping that.
There's 2 of them, right? Is it
43rd and
40
46.
46, yeah. I'll reach out to them.
Yeah.
As well as Chief, I know Douglas and I got a text, but about the, on 41st Avenue, that sign, the speed sign it's not working again until 10 o'clock in the morning or something, but if you
Depends on
can,
the day. We keep an eye on it. We're able to pull data from it. It does work. There's just some times when it seems to not pick up. And we've recently replaced all the batteries. We've cleaned all the solar panels and looked at it from there. We may be at a point where we may have to look at purchasing brand-new signs.
yeah,
And that would be something that would be put in the budget
okay.
request for next year.
All right, so the next item the next meeting is, so the next scheduled meeting is on Election Day, right? I mean, that's when it should have,
Yeah.
correct. So you're suggesting we push it to the next day, which is
Yes.
5th.
Wednesday, to November the 5th. Is that good, or you want to do it the next week? I'm okay either time.
You're just pushing yourself up against any kind of council action.
Yeah.
Would
because
happen
that
to
would
that
be,
same day.
Okay,
Yeah.
is everybody
The
good on
month
the
is
5th?
short.
I'm good on
Plus,
the 5th.
The
Yeah.
11th is also Veterans Day, so we're not even having,
Yeah.
You good at the 5th?
Yeah,
All right,
let's
so
do
it'll
it the
be
5th.
Wednesday, November 5th at 11 a.m.
Okay.
All right, no further business.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.